Cue music. And hello, hello, hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with
Tank.
and we're here on the front lines and the battle against the deep state. What is going on, Tank? There's a lot that I see. We've got a lot of battles going on.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just want to clarify. I don't really have a Kim update exactly. Obviously, there's been a lot going on this weekend. Obviously, al-Baghdadi, whatever his name is, Akbar al-Baghdadi, right?
Yeah, Big Daddy, the Big Daddy terrorist.
Big Daddy terrorist gets taken down by by the U.S. military with whatever it was. I'm not sure who the group was they were with, but that's a big deal. With President Trump, after all the smack talk, I love my favorite part about that is that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi were not included, or Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
And the reason was very clear. Just in the world of transparency, I thought this was actually very transparent. He said, "No, we didn't do that because we didn't want anybody to get killed." So we didn't tell them, which I think is actually very telling. It's like you guys are having secret meetings to try to take me down, and I love that Matt Gaetz came out and blasted them because they wanted to, set him up. They put him on MSNBC, and MSNBC starts talking to him. They tried to, what about the testimony in this impeachment hearing? It's like, and Matt Gaetz goes, I don't know. He goes, because we weren't allowed in. He goes, so it doesn't matter. He goes, so I'm not going to respond to that because we never had a chance to cross-examine the witnesses. So even what they're doing is complete nonsense. You can't have a solely Democratic, impeachment hearing. That's actually, you're your actions actually become transparent as far as what you're doing, but not intentionally. So I love Matt Gaetz though, man. He's awesome.
he's great. Yeah, he led the bunker raids.
Oh, I love that, man. That was great. Walk right in there, kick the door down. That's awesome.
You know, I was watching Greg Gunsfeld with he's got his Titus, his wrestler, co-host there, right? And he was saying it was pretty. It's amusing how he explained it. He said, you had all these old white men, right? Like they're politely walking in. Oh, we're here to disrupt the proceedings.
Like I say, what is this?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the
So,
it was done in this because the mainstream media was saying they're a mob, right? Pitchforks and torches, but they politely walk in, they take a seat. This was a disturbance.
He called him out. He's like, look, he goes, there's standards for due process. That's all. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Like, just follow the process. And there has to be. How can you possibly have judgment if you don't have a standard, right? Mm-hmm. So you're breaking the law by the way you're doing the case, right? You've created a new rule to do something just so you can throw the word impeachment around. Yet there's nothing that is impeachable other than the things that you're doing. And then somebody had the nerve. It was so stupid. I don't know who was talking about this. How you can't impeach people in Congress or senators. I'm like, yes, you can. Like, it's an accusation, is what you're saying, right? Like,
right. Impeach your character. It's just
right.
So they can be impeached.
Yes, they can be impeached. Of course.
This also is part of a complete setup. Even this, capturing Big Daddy terrorists. They're Abu Dhabi, Big Daddy. No, it's not Abu Dhabi. It's a. But anyway, so Baghdadi is known where they knew where he was for over a month. That's what Trump said, right? Why go in that day, right? Why did they pick that day? So they knew where he was. So they timed when to make this happen, right? And it's all just, one story after another that are landing on top of them. This is bringing the pain, the Punisher, that Q had talked about, right? It's the drip, drip, drip of these massive Moabs that are landing on top of them, right? And they come back out and they're all worn, torn, and they get on camera to say something, and they're in shell shock because the next one's incoming, right? So they don't know what to do, and this is why they look so ridiculous.
It's a train wreck. And this guy on Baghdadi, right? He would travel with women and children to use them as a shield, mm-hmm. right? To make sure, people they wouldn't kill him, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole mentality of your weakness is your love of humanity, right? So I find that to be fascinating. Then, I saw this really incredible report of these guys, and they were talking about all of this. Actually, I'll send you the link afterwards, Dan. But it was they were talking about all of these underground bases, right, and underground cities, and all of these different things, right, and all of these different operations going on, and it really speaks to what Thomas and Kim have been talking about for a long time about even on the September 21st, the Galactic Independence Day when they were blowing up these bases, and then you got these, you got some pictures of there in LA. Because they're talking about these different hubs, like under Denver, there's 8 full cities under Denver. There's another one that's 800 miles beneath the earth, right? And they were showing one of the the manhole, not this manhole, but where the grate goes for the sewer, and there was a fire burning, and you could see it underneath,
Really?
Yeah, and that was in LA.
Oh, if you got videos like that, send it to me. I love that kind of stuff. I literally went hunting for the underground cities from the top. I was looking for air vents, and I was when I was out in Denver one time. I was looking at real estate acquisition, And so I just literally headed out towards NORAD in the mountains, right? And just along the roadside. And I saw these houses that were periodically, they were identical houses with a very strange roof. It literally had these giant louvers as the roof. Right? It looked like a house, but the roof had these big flapping louvers on it. And I said, well, that's not normal.
Right. That's not normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is actually one of the entrances to the, I think it's the underground. I think there's 8 underground cities beneath this one. Yeah, there is. It actually says that. Yeah, so 88.3 miles deep, and is basically 8 cities on top of each other. And this is up in, I believe this is up in the Denver area. Right, this is the entrance to that underground city.
That's interesting how they wind it down around the corner that way to get into it. Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm sure as soon as you go in there, you make a hard left and then go down.
Yeah, I'm sure something like that. Fascinating stuff, man. All this kind of stuff. I'm always amazed at this the depth of where there's this hole in the world beneath the earth, right?
Yep. I've told this before on the air, but I'll say it again. I had a friend who was an electrical contractor in Los Angeles, very good friend of mine. And he was hired to work at the federal building, which is kind of in the west of Los Angeles. And they took him to the garage. I'm sorry, not the garage, the parking garage. Where they had the multi-story parking garage. And they took him to an area, and he saw these huge pipes that were going down into the ground, right? And he's electrical contractor. He knows that's electrical piping, and he was actually said, "Where is that going?" He asked, "Where is it? Where?" Because he said that's enough to power a city. What was leaving this area and going straight down into the ground was that. Now this is under where the VA center is. This is like UCLA area, and that's also where the Getty Museum is, up in the mountain area, and the Getty Museum is also a refuge point for for the elite, right? It's built, as a fortress, right? Now, it's built as a fortress, as they say, because they have all this, priceless items there, right? And so the Getty Museum is like it was designed as a foundation. Have you ever saw that there was a series on HBO about the Gettys, right? And how he actually had no money, right? Because he didn't. He just controlled the empire that had all the money. So, like when he went to pay a ransom, right? He didn't actually have the cash to do it. So no one could ever string him out for. So he had to play hard ass about it. But anyway, so that Getty Museum was designed, or the Getty Foundation was designed as a foundation to attract all of the artwork around the world. They had to spend, in order to keep their tax-free status as a foundation, they have to spend over $113 million a month on art.
Wow, that's crazy,
right? Or because that's how much money it generates, right? So what it does is it causes this big sucking sound from like Santa Monica Mountains. Right, and pulls in all of the major artworks from around the whole world. And so sometimes they own stuff around the world, but they leave it in the museums from wherever they bought it, right? Because they have to spend the money. But there's also a way, if you're looking at building an underground facility, but you want to save the best of humanity in regards to artwork, you build a system like that. And then it goes in through here, and then goes to the underground facilities that are basically under Los Angeles, and the tunnel systems there. I know in Pursuit of Truth, Sir Patrick Matt, he also has been analyzing the tunnel systems between houses but it's more than that. Just going between houses in like the Beverly Hills area under Los Angeles, it's that whole area, especially like the VA Center in West Los Angeles. Underneath there, it is um, a massive underground facility. I don't know if there's a whole city underneath that, but I do know that they're under another city within a city called Century City in Los Angeles, West Los Angeles area. It's kind of just butts up against Beverly Hills, right? So Century City. Reagan would go and stay at the Century Plaza when he would stay in Los Angeles. That's where he'd go. Um, and I was told that that was an access point to the underground railway system, or the high speed train system. And you could literally go to the underground cities, my understanding, all the way to Houston. The train ran from there.
Well, yeah. So this group talked about how there's a complete underground highway system to provide food to all different cities, right? There's also a high-speed Magnavox or Magnet. Is that right? Not Magnavox.
Yeah.
Magrail.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the Magrail is like the polar opposite of the high-speed rail that Kim has the plans for. Because the one that Kim has the plans for would literally, it would heal the planet. But the Magrails are actually, they destroy the planet.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But
yes, but they connect everywhere. They connect all throughout the whole underground planet.
Yeah, I think that the system that's, from what I understand, it's a vacuum tube type rail system where it's literally it runs in a vacuum. It is a magnetic system. I don't know what type of magnetic system it is, but it propels at such high rates of speed, much faster than airplanes.
Yeah, 17,000 miles an hour is what the guys said on the
yeah, and that would make that's it.
Yeah, which means you basically get around the Earth pretty quick anywhere.
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah, because that's an hour to go to the other side of the planet, pretty much.
Well, it's 3,000. 6,000 miles diameter. Something like that.
Oh no, 25,000.
Oh, okay, there you go. That's better. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, so, but I mean, I was fascinated by it. I'm always amazed, even though I realize that nothing is what I thought it was. I'm always amazed at all that there really is, and it just never seems to stop. There's a constant flow of incredible information. It's really, it's hard to say what is exactly accurate, but there's definitely something to it, So that's mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about it's a shame that all these things get blown up, right? But because wouldn't it be great to go to these underground facilities and be able to just visit another city? This one just happened to be built.
But they're not all evil. I mean, there's whole societies that exist within the planet. So I am constantly curious about this. Like, are we just not privy to that? Because they all know about each other, right? But we don't really know about any of them.
Yeah, well, the sheeple don't know anything. They just there to graze and provide, as a resource for them, right? The elite.
Yeah.
So that kind of focus on things is a little. Why did they want to separate themselves out, right? What's within them? And now you were telling me earlier about this vaccine against God. This they really want to cut us off from God. That's why they want to use aspartame or fluorides to calcify the pineal gland. That they do everything they can. Now they have a vaccine that actually turns us against God.
You know what? Here, oh man, I want to show this, but I guess you guys, I keep forgetting you guys can't hear my volume. But yeah, so this is actually a leaked Pentagon video, and it actually what it addresses is the VMAT2, the VMAT2 gene. So they say that this is a vaccine against the VMAT2 gene.
Or you can send it to me, and I can put it up.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in Telegram. You can take a look at it. Hang on one second. Where is this? Yeah, so the VMAT2 gene, basically, it's in your Telegram, Dan.
Okay.
You know, VMAT2 gene is like what is, you know, for people that are spiritual or religious, right? And what they claim is that they're trying to prevent the behavior of religious zealots, right? Making, you know, bombing cities like suicide bombers. But so what they do is there's a whole clinical document there that explains how all the different ways they tested it, right? Very official. And it explains how they tested it through, you know, could we put it in cars, like have it be released from cars? Could we have it released from the sky, the water supply, the food supply, right? All these different ways. They're talking about using this vaccine in Afghanistan, right? And they're saying, you know, and this would, what they believe is this would prevent the religious behavior, because what it actually does now, but when he describes it, he says that out here we have a religious, you know, zealot, and we read a religious text, and they light up here, and they appreciate it. Now here's after the same religious zealot basically is given this vaccine. Now this other part of their brain lights up. And basically, they're disgusted with it. Now that's a little more than a subtle shift, don't you think?
Okay,
like we're going to take someone who's religiously fervent, right, and they're trying to portray that as bad, right? They're violent.
Right.
But in reality, most people that are spiritual are lovely people, right? They just want to understand God better, and they're good, wholesome people. So you're trying to take that away from them, so they hate God.
Well, I've got it queued up, so I'm ready to play.
Go for it.
We have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Over here, we have individuals. So let me complete. So over here, we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalist, not particularly religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach. What you see
by studying this virus, we're going to eliminate individuals from going on a combat or going into a market and blowing up the market.
So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior. So we have some very, very remarkable data in this next slide. Here we have two brain scans. These are fMRIs. These are two different individuals with different levels of expression of VMAT2. On top is an individual who's a religious fanatic, an individual, and we've repeated this numerous times, that has high levels of VMAT2. Now, this individual down here who had low levels of the VMAT2 gene, this individual would self-describe as not particularly religious. In each case, these individuals were read a religious text. This individual lit up the right middle frontal gyrus, shown here, and that's a part of the brain that's associated with theory of mind. It's a part of the brain that has to do with intents and beliefs and desires. In marked contrast, here's an individual who would not particularly self-describe as religious, and when they're read a religious text, what you see is that this part of the brain called the anterior insula lights up. This is a part of the brain that's associated with disgust or displeasure on hearing something.
Do you suggest when I take a CT scan with you and I'm evaluating people, determine whether I put a bullet in their head?
So the data that I'm presenting here supports the concept that we're proposing. And I think that we would not propose to do CT scans or fMRIs on individuals out in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person. And we think that will have major effects in the Middle East.
How do you think this?
Well, so the present plan and the tests that we've done so far have used respiratory viruses such as flu or rhinoviruses, and we believe that that's a satisfactory way to get the exposure of the largest part of the population. Most of us, of course, have been exposed to both of those viruses, and we're quite confident that this will be a very successful approach.
What's the name of this proposal?
Yeah, so the name of this project is FunVax, which is the vaccine for religious fundamentalism.
And you have a proposal already?
The proposal,
FunVac. You got the name is Fun Vaccination.
Yeah.
So
The fundamentalists. Yeah, that's what it is.
The
Fun vac.
FunVac. But he also it immunizes against desire.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, it would be. Now think about this. So this is a behavior modification vaccine. It is vaccinating against free will, really, your natural ability to interpret and experience God however you see fit. So it's not a stretch when you think about it, right? That they're actually imposing vaccines. And at the same time as they impose vaccines, they're specifically demonstrating that we're imposing vaccines with the intention of taking away your religious freedoms. So we all look at it like, well, you're taking away the religious freedoms as a byproduct because you're trying to keep people healthy. But that's not true. The intent that they have, the real intent, is to take away our religious freedom so that we hate God.
Well,
Therefore, we're disconnected
also-
from God and we're naturally weakened.
And fun, and to take away fun.
Fun, right. You want to take it's a fun fact. We're killing fun.
Yes. Well, because if you eliminate desire, how can you have fun?
Well, that's the whole thing. Is they actually in the studies, right? They showed what happened was they tested it on monkeys, right? And when they tested it on these monkeys, the monkeys just basically lost the will to live. They lost any desire to eat, right? And they just starved to death. It just these state of sadness.
I just had a rainstorm start, right? So it's going to be a little bit difficult for. I'm going to mute myself. I'll let you go ahead and talk. I'll just chime in here and there.
Yeah, so I know I keep coming back to this vaccine stuff, but I feel like I gotta share something else here quick because this is really powerful stuff, and people need to know what's going on. Now, this past week there was a CDC meeting, right? Now, at this meeting, shouldn't be showing all my secrets here, but at this meeting, there were some very specific conclusions. Now, this is very important. In conclusion, the CDC determines that local health departments in each state must begin to remove access to exemptions and defeat vaccine hesitancy in a local level in their own community. The removal of exemptions or ability of the public to opt out of vaccination must be carried out by the states throughout 2020. Now, think about the power of this statement. You're saying, first of all, that the CDC is dictating state policy. So now the CDC has overruled completely the Constitution. Not only that, but they're doing it with a vaccine, which is, there is no, with all vaccines, that there are no double-blind placebo tests to even show that they create immunity. In the one double-blind test they did do, they had the virologist actually spike the results with animal plasma, DNA, whatever, to create the illusion that it was creating immunity. Then, to make matters worse, on top of that, you have billions of dollars that have been paid out by the government because the vaccines cause death and autism. And in the actual packet inserts, because everyone's saying that, oh, vaccines don't cause autism, but in the package insert, it actually says that this can cause autism and other neurological disorders. That this, and the forensic nurse was on with us at Rachel, and she broke this down, and I had never even considered this. She talked about these cells from these fetuses, from aborted fetuses back in 1966, and what it talks about is a cell that is an immortal cell or a continuous cell, right? And what that's talking about is cancer, right? And what it does is it's continuous because apoptosis means your cells naturally break down and die every 3 years, allowing for new cells to regenerate and basically keeping you alive, right? So aging in and of itself is caused because of cancerous cells that don't die off, right? So they become dysfunctional. So they're using these cells from 1966 and they keep reproducing them, and they're degrading, but they keep putting them in the actual measles vaccine. Now, wild measles, if you just caught measles like out, normally, actually creates a immunity to many forms of cancer, but at very least a defense to cancer. So people that have got the measles generally don't get cancer. But people who have taken the measles vaccine,
Wow.
which is mixed and integrated, it's actually cultured with with leukemia, right, with this cancerous stem cell, and they're keeping it alive. So basically, they're infecting our kids with cancer from birth, intentionally, knowing that it will grow over time. But wait, there's more, because they're putting nanites that are latent in the body so that they can upload data into the cloud. And there's actual documentation to show that they gather our genetic blueprint and upload it into the cloud based on the vaccines. So now you take that and then add it to the military is talking about about using this vaccine. They've already created. Now, remember, vaccines, they introduce them, and like 8 days later, they put on the market, right? They're in production, right? Because there's no rules. Vaccines, do whatever you want. So they have these vaccines there, and like their theory
It's
is
just a money mill.
What's that?
I said just a money mill. So they could create anything, throw anything into something. Say, oh, it's a vaccine for X, Y, and Z. Let's put it on the market. They make money.
Right. And then, to make matters worse, CDC they own the patents. Now, in the document that goes with that video we just showed you, it actually talks about, we're not sure exactly the effect it'll have on people that are spiritual and religious. But that's their goal. It's a vaccine against spirituality. But what their main goal is to affect the behavior, to stop people from rebelling, stop people from having, standing up and saying no.
Well, just think they're gonna say that the religious fundamentalists, the people like in the United States that are Christians, that are going to protest, say, against like gay marriage, right? Oh, these are fundamentalists. Let's hit them with the vaccine. We'll get them to stop acting that way.
Well, you'll have vaccine bombs, right? Instead of tear gas, you'll just drop a vaccine bomb, turn everybody into zombies.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, throw this in there, boom. Next thing you know. And they actually, what they talk about is delivery methods, right? So they're not talking about like taking one person who's radical and killing people, and basically what they would do, back in like the 50s, right? They would give people lobotomies, right? Take away their will to you know, to do anything, right? And the reason, but they made them too much like zombies. You're not talking about just injecting one individual with something. They're talking every method they talk about. They put it in the water supply, the food supply, put it in cars. They have to be emitted from the back of the car, or dropping it from the air. And where they got the best results is dropping it from the air. So that's where you have the whole idea of chemtrails, right?
Right.
Now here, it's exactly what they're talking about, right? So, but you can also make cop controllers, right? Like cop controls where you can throw a bomb in to diffuse the situation. Now you just vaccinated people, did permanent damage to all of them. Now they're all a bunch of zombies. This is how the zombie apocalypse happens.
That makes sense. That makes sense because the people that don't have desire, right? But they're gonna have they're gonna want to eat, and the only thing that makes them feel better is eating brains.
No. They actually said the monkeys, they lost any desire to eat.
Oh well, they need to fix that.
They called it the inoculation. They inoculated them. They got it, and it was too strong, and they lost any desire to do anything. And basically, because they had no desire, they just died.
Yeah.
I mean, now that is the perfect weapon, according to remember Lolly? We did that interview with Lolly from the MK Ultra, and Lolly said, she was talking about these different, I don't know, like pressure point hits and stuff. And she was saying, now the ultimate goal is to hit somebody and have them not die till later, right? So that you don't get blamed.
Right.
So this is what, a lot of what happened with like September 11th and, other things like this. It's like, well, if you're dying from cancer, you're not dying on the spot, right?
Right.
You die over time. And then on top of that, they take the extra jab at you to make sure they profit from you before you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they put you through the most expensive, long exaggerated death program. And look, this stuff is real. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, my God. And I realize...
You said, God, you need the vaccination.
Was that?
I said, you said, God, you need the vaccination. You sound like you're getting fundamentalist.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be too much to infect anyone with my toxic masculinity.
That's it.
But the tragedy, if you really think about this, right? It's like it just gets worse every time I open something. They were at the CDC. Who the hell does the CDC think they are? That they can tell everyone we must. And now, you know what they're talking about? They're talking about the agenda. They're still focused on Agenda 21. That's what they're looking at. That's why they say we have to get these people, inoculated with vaccines. Because once we take any exemptions away from vaccines, we remove that right that people have to choose not to be drugged. Once we remove that right, then what can we do? Well, then we can go in and we can start to give them this other vaccine, which takes away their will to resist. Now, as we do it, it'll become easier and easier because there'll be less and less people who are even willing to resist. That's terrifying.
Yep, and the thing is that this is their plan, and it's very it's hard to wrap your mind around it when you first hear this kind of stuff because it can't be, right? You're going to deny it because it doesn't seem like it could be real, right? And it's just that you won't then look at facts. You won't look at the evidence that's presented there because you're already biased against it. So only when you start, something happens to you that you snap out of it, right? And you say, wow, maybe I should look into this. Then you find out more and more. And then how fantastically evil it is, right? How it just is something that you couldn't fathom. And it just still can't be. You still want to, say, am I awake? Am I really experiencing this? Because to know that they've done this, under the guise of helping everybody, right? And all these good things, save the planet, right? Whatever it is, but it doesn't mean save you. It means save the planet for them to use.
Right.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah, and it's their way of getting rid of the parts of humanity they view as undesirable.
right, which
And
is which is
that,
the
with us, most of us, that's our whole life.
right, which is the part that we think are the most desirable, right? The main humanity would believe that protecting our children, doing the best for one another, caring for one another, that they consider this a weakness.
Well, so this is what I started talking about this a little bit, and there was a character who moved in, or who was relatively close to the proximity of where Michelle Walker is kept safely, right? And in that, he wanted to meet with her to talk to her about some stuff, right? So he had some really good information. So I'm like, well, he clearly is connected with some people. So I started talking to him, and he hit me up with this statement that said, the Iron Mountain is working perfectly. Then he said the 7 platforms are running without any flaws. The sovereign banking system is completely integrated, right? And I'm like, and each one of those things, I'm like, I was questioning myself. I'm like, well, maybe, is he really talking about the Iron Mountain agenda, which might be like the Iron Mountain AI, because there could be one, and it might be talking about, one of the groups that lives in Iron Mountain, because there is an Iron Mountain, in the U.S., right? And then, so I kind of, I was like, just kind of questioning. And I asked him the question, and then I'm like, sovereign banking. So I'm like, I wonder if he's talking about the, quantum system, And then he said, the 7 platforms. Well, I'm like, okay, well, that's the trading platforms, which I know for a fact there's not a single trading platform that's actually operating correctly. It's just moving. It's just smoke and mirrors. That's all it is, right? And Kim said the exact same thing. It's just smoke and mirrors.
They're just moving money from place to place because in a circle. They're moving it in a circle.
Right. Like I move my, I tell Dan to write a number down. He tells me to write a number down. That's all we're doing, right? So, and then to top it all off, the last thing he said, this is where I knew he had absolutely no credibility. He said all the RV talk on the internet is just broker BS. And I'm like, that's true. And then he said, it's already happened! Exclamation point, right? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, are you kidding? Has it happened? Because the way you would hear about it is that everybody would be doing great, right? So he started talking about the dinar. Now, they had these dinar exchanges, right? And what they did is they basically registered the dinar as an independent asset. So they made the paper an asset so they could create fake trading platforms,
right?
And try to make some money and fabricate money, because that's what they've been doing for the past 12 years,
right?
But because they haven't had access to.
But they don't have an asset behind it, right? They're making that paper, worthless paper, the asset and saying it has value.
Right. So that's why, they tried to say, oh, it's backed by the oil, right, and stuff like that. So, that was the whole claim that they were working with, right? They were selling futures. So it was based on futures, which led back to derivatives, which has ultimately led to the collapse of the entire world banking system.
Right.
That's why Deutsche Bank just went down.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Derivatives. Yes, do that again, right. So he's talking about it, and he's talking about some secret devices he's made that are, he can't violate his NDA that he's been part of for 30, 40 years. I'm like, oh my God, what is this guy? And I know what he's talking about, because there's the whole white hat movement, right? And the white hats went to restore the republic, so they initiated all these grand juries. That's all real. That all happened, right? But then they were infiltrated, right? Because they were infiltrated because at the same time the order had so much more pull and sway and control than they did. They infiltrated them, right? And they started taking over. And that is what happened. And so that's why I'm never a big believer in the plan, right? That I was talking about. So in this, but there is another plan, Dan, to your point, and it's the restoration plan, right? Now, that's where we're at now. Like, that's a new plan. Now, that plan was implemented by Kim, though, and she brought that to them because their plan failed miserably.
I like that plan, the restoration plan.
What's that?
I like the restoration plan. Much better.
Right. So she came, and she's the only one that presented a real plan, because all of them were just minions. They had no ideas that were original. All of their ideas revolved around how do we stay in control. But how do we stay in control? You know what we could do? How do we stay in control? And like everything they say and do,
I think they wanted to stay. They wanted to stay in control. That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah. But in this these guys who are like really breaking down the bases underneath all the cities, right, all the places, and they were saying how like basically they were going to kill everybody off unless you were Chinese. What they were saying. I don't know. But there's probably some truth to that on some level, right? Because we know the Chinese are supposed to take over the world, right?
Right.
So I guess a majority of the very few people who would have been here would have been Chinese, and then they would have been killed off too. But it's like they just don't seem to realize like the whole plan that you guys are invested in, it ends with your genocide as well, right? Like you wouldn't have lived. So, anyways,
no, that can't be. I'm in power. I've got control. I'm the one.
Right. It's like that lovely email that was sent to us. How they broke down how, in the stellar ecclesiastical universe, right? In the other dimensions, how they had already defeated Zorg and the enemies of, whatever. Right? And it's like they go into all this stuff because, like, because you meditated on it, you already did it, right? It's like, look, I'm not trying to take away that that we are multi-dimensional beings. That is a fact. We exist here and several other dimensions simultaneously. Greater expressions, different expressions at the very least. But at the end of the day, you live here. This is where you are grounded and rooted. And if anything is going to change, it has to change here. Because it's here on Earth that you have the opportunity to exist within time and space. And the beauty of time and space is that you actually get to experience the creative process. And you get to understand what it takes to create and to build something from the ground up. And you get to experience it in a much slower time space reality than you would in, say, the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, where it's things are instantaneous, right?
Right.
And everybody wants to jump to this place of instantaneous manifestation, but the reality is you came here for a reason. You're here on this planet, this place, this body, for a reason. So that's what we're going through, right? But everyone wants to jump through it. Now, we've destroyed this planet 6 other times, right? I mean, we've done this before. Right? A lot of this stuff's got to feel like deja vu. But now we've never come this far. We've never made it this far in the process. So now we're in new grounds. So for the first time ever, we get to restore and revitalize, or like it says in the Bible, to replenish the earth. Right? Now, the question everybody should ask is, if that's the beginning of the world, right? How are they going to replenish the earth? Right? Why does it say that? Because we've done this before. Right? Because we've done it before. So
amazing.
I don't know.
Oh,
isn't it amazing?
It is. Where Matrix films comes to mind, right? Where we're experiencing the same thing over. Where this is the time when Neo actually does save everyone. So
yeah,
it's amazing that we get to have this telegraphed information to us as well, right?
Yeah, I'm always amazed that, I'm talking about these things and understand them somewhat, and I'm always amazed at how much I don't. I'm always amazed at how much I don't know.
Right.
Because every time I turn around, some new amazing thing happens, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. But, yeah, so, but what I will say, so this guy said that. I got to be honest, it disturbed me a little bit, because I was kind of like, I feel like like everything's coming together, and we get them locked down,
right?
And then all of a sudden, my whole reality opens up. It's like, whoa, there's all this other stuff, right? And kind of overwhelmed me for a minute, for a little while there. But what I do appreciate Kim's response, right? That there is a, she basically said, it's not really working as well as they think, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe on the surface, it might appear that way, right? And she might have been just talking about the surface of the planet, right? But you've got all these different things going on, all these earthquakes that people are talking about, all these explosions coming up from underneath the earth. This is all things getting blown up and destroyed from within the planet, right? So all of these factors that were there to kill us and to hurt us and to drain our energy, they're being removed, right?
Right.
So if those things are being removed, the next logical thing would be, well,
What are we
what are you
replacing
going
it?
to do with that?
Yeah.
Like as people, right? Because if you're no longer being suppressed, who are you now?
Right. Well, I'm all into creation. I'm creating about on a specific project, about 18 hours a day, and it's making something out of nothing, right? You have an idea, you work it, and then you try to make it relate to the rest of the world, right? So that so it can be experienced, and that's so we need to repeat that experience for so many people, so they all get it. They all know that they can be creators and they can be part of it, and don't make it all about your ego, right? Your own way of doing things. You have to consider the rest of the world, with it and how they want to react with things. So it has to work across the board. So so you don't want it to be uncreated, right? Or let's just say set off on another trajectory because you're excluding other people, right, from your creation.
Right. Totally. Well, I mean, I reserve the right to exclude people as I see fit, but that's just me.
Sure. Yeah. It's more about the generalization of making sure that there is some ability of whatever you want to create to last out what go multi-generational, right? To expand it into another a higher level means you're basically going to go beyond your own lifespan with it, right? It's going to resonate and continue on for a millennia or 10 or 100, or whatever, and right now we're dealing with something that was put into place 16,500 years ago, right? And people, it's hard to grasp that, right? Because we've got 60 to 120 years here, right? So it's if something was put into place, and everyone agreed to it at one point, and everyone started working towards something over generations and generations and generations, and at a certain point, it takes a turn, right, to where there wasn't an intention, at least from all the parties in the beginning, but maybe it was an ultimate intention of the main party that put let's say the draconians, the whoever it was that made the initial deal with the 5 tribes. Maybe they had an intention that was not good for everybody. So they took it and turned it over time away from where everyone else thought it was going, made it into a different creation than what everyone else was on board with. But the change was so slight over time that we didn't notice because of the lifespans being so short. So,
right.
But still, the core energy that was there has been there from the beginning. That's why the stamping out of our vaccinating us against God, vaccinating us against fun, the fun vaccination.
Right. Terrifying.
Is that me? Oh, I think that.
I guess.
Yeah, that's me. That's that call I was expecting. I think I told you about.
Go ahead and take the call, man.
I don't know how to get to it, actually.
Oh, gotcha.
It's ringing, but I don't know how to. Yeah. Anyway, it's over now, unless they call back again. I don't know how to answer it because I don't know what screen it was on.
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, where is that coming from? I got 20 tabs here. Which one is ringing? I can't tell. But yeah, so we're looking at this change that was happening over time, was done to us. And now we're going back to the core feeling of what was there in the beginning, restoration. Right? We were about restoring after the calamity. So we're back to square one. So let's not do that again. let's do something different, right? Let's not work towards a solution that means that maybe we have some comfort in the short period, but we end up enslaving our kind and becoming drones in a clone army. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man. Some of this stuff is just out of this world. This like some of the things that they did, even with the vaccine, like I got this long biblical explanation of how there's a scripture in like Zechariah 5-11, and it talks about the stork, picking up the this is where the stork comes from. I didn't even realize that was in the Bible. About the stork taking the aborted fetus, right, and carrying it over to Babylon, right, and how that's what they do. That's what they've done with the vaccine. They've taken this aborted fetus from Switzerland and flown it over. There's this whole like long, really amazing correlation with it. I'm like, wow, and you can tell that's probably something they did, right? It's a spell. Vaccines are, some kind of spell.
But so when we would hear the story of the stork bringing the new baby, that was the cover, right? We have a oh, that's a good feeling type of imagery. The stork bringing the baby. That's what you tell the kids, right? Where do babies come from? Oh, the stork delivers them, right? Oh, really?
Right.
God sends them down by stork. Well, it's really the opposite. Yeah.
It's really the opposite. Yeah, it's actually I've seen this. I saw this. There's a symbol of this, the Babylonian symbol of these two storks, right? And it's a satanic symbol, actually. And there was these decoders, and they were working it out. They were like, trying to get us involved. And I found it very interesting. And then I realized what they were doing, trying to get us to kind of subject ourselves to their nonsense they were involved in, right? But all this stuff is just so insane. You realize on the planet, even we're not even the most important beings on the planet.
Right.
I mean we are, I guess.
I think we are.
I think we are, but I think what's so funny is it's like there's everybody else within the planet. They're all communicating, like they know about each other, right? We're the only ones that are like out here without that knowledge, right? Like really a working knowledge of like what it means to be able to go.
Because our rulers deemed us not worthy.
Well, yes, that's true. But there's actually you can't get to certain parts of the planet within the planet, right, without vibrating at certain frequencies. So they're blocked everywhere. They can't just get anywhere on the planet. So
that's interesting.
I know, and
it's kind of
I
another...
asked him one time about that. I'm like, will I be able to like hang out with these guys? Like, will I be able to have my own galactic friends, right? And
you gotta go to the Star Wars bar.
Yeah, I would like that. Well, I mean, not that bar. It's a little violent for me, but maybe just a place where you can hang out and ask questions, talk.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some potential there. Probably some really amazing, interesting people down there.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
go flying kites, maybe.
Yeah. So, but I will say that Kim's response to that was with that gentleman is she's like, oh, it appears he's incorrect. She said, I said, okay. That's good enough for me. Yeah, he doesn't do anything correct.
So the Iron Mountain is going really well. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, it
Iron.
doesn't seem like they're doing it too well at this moment. Trump is dismantling every aspect of their system, right? Declaring peace worldwide.
Yeah. I love that. And and I gotta say, like, just to re-emphasize to anyone to, listen to the call from last night with Michelle Walker. Man, share that with any veteran you know. I'm telling you, that is really a profound secret that she shared last night. I don't think most people would know that. I don't think, and veterans certainly would. Marines are death before dishonor, right? And I think it's important to take note of what they have gone through and how poorly they have been treated when they come back. Anybody who's been, raped or molested or, violated sexually in any way at a young age or, even just at all, to have that taken from you, to have something like that taken from you, or to have something exposed to you that is so perverse from human nature, the natural instinct that we have is to blame ourselves. So imagine how that creates psychological damage over time and what those guys are probably going through and what they had to go be subjected to, right? So, go hug a veteran today because, they same soldiers or active duty soldiers as well. These are the guys who just went and took down this guy from ISIS.
Yeah, with no one dying except the terrorists. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah, and he took off with like 3 kids, I guess, trying to take cover.
Right, in a tunnel, and he blew himself up. Right. Collapsed the tunnel on him. And they did recover the body. They did recover the body. It wasn't like he slept out the back or anything. So they had the body, and they've identified him for sure. So he's gone. And this is and I think this is just part of the plan for let's just say Trump's plan or the Tesla plan, because this was timed. They knew for over a month where he was. So for them to bring out the information at this time is really just showing more people what is really going on. It's like, how come Trump is the one that's able to get rid of these terrorists? How come he's the one that's able to stop the wars? How come everything that he's doing is actually doing what we've wanted, and all the other politicians have just lied? So
right.
But by pointing this out, he's really turning everyone upside down. I think he should probably I think where he's ultimately going to be. What this end result here also is the Democrat Party will be destroyed with what's going on, because no one will be able to stand there, and I don't know how many of them are just normal people in the Democrat Party leadership, right? Meaning that they've been elected officials. I don't know how many of them are compromised, and part of this Iron Mountain agenda, right? Or population control, and they go along with it. But if there's any of them that aren't, this is the time to #walk away, right? And I think that Trump, could very well, pick up Tulsi as his vice president candidate and try and bring the country together, regardless of Democrat or Republican. Because there's Republicans are part of this that are not, and they're all jumping ship anyway. They're not going to run for election again, and they're. But you had like the no name Mitt Romney, no name Mitt. No name Mitt. And the others that are on that side that are there for the control system, right? They also need to be eliminated. So it's not just about 2 parties. We need one party. Whether it all gathers under the Republican Party, because that's where Trump is right now. But everyone has to recognize that, does that label doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican. What matters is who is doing what and what they're doing. So,
Well, I agree. I think there's a lot going on there that we can. There's so many different pieces to this. It's just like a nonstop. They just unfolding in front of everyone. But right now, the hits just keep coming, don't they?
yeah.
It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, you're actually seeing things come out. I mean, there's going to be real charges. And right now, it looks like they're actually going to charge Obama and Hillary Clinton and all this.
Yeah.
So,
I saw with Rudy and what's the other guy? The other attorney was on Ingram Angle. What's his name? Joe? No, was it Joe? Anyway, but he was saying this week, this next week, a lot of things hitting, and he was like gleeful, right? I mean, they're so charged up with what's going on. I mean, they both look like kids in a candy store, right? That's the glee.
good. Yeah.
That's the glee that they're experiencing and they're expressing, because it's now we're going to see this stuff changing. That's why I think that Trump could do a move like bring Tulsi in as a vice president, and literally just do that to bring
Unify the parties.
Unify the parties as Americans, and that's what I think is really possible.
Can you imagine the power of that? To say there can no longer be Republican or Democrat, but strictly
American.
we are American.
Yeah,
that would be incredible. I mean, because really, and the way you could do that is if you uncover so much corruption that is undeniable. I mean, you have an agenda that is actively in place. I mean, right now, people don't even realize what we are fighting against is not, this transhuman liberal ideology of, anti-American craziness, right? You're fighting an agenda that is completely genocidal. And not only that, but it's like suicidal genocidal. Because people are willingly walking into gas chambers. They're like, no, it needs to be this way. It's like, don't you realize it's not normal that all of a sudden we have all these, like gender dysphoria happening all over? Like, don't you realize that's not normal?
Yeah.
It's never happened. It's not because people were old-fashioned, it's because people didn't feel that way.
Right.
They feel that way because of these vaccines they're poisoning people with, right? It's crazy when you think about it.
Right.
It's like, so you have this whole thing to like limit reproduction and, limit your resistance. So you take out your men because men are the ones who are supposed to protect naturally.
Right.
So when this happens, they've taken all the men, they reduce their testosterone and reduce their desire and ability to fight.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, and this.
But not us, Dan.
we're fighting moment by moment.
That's right.
Oh, okay. So, anything else we should cover, or are we good? For
man, I'm good. I'm good. That's all I got for today. Stay tuned. We have a lot of stuff going on over this next week. I expect on the ground level here. We're gonna be making a lot of progress, a lot of things, and if all these cats are going down, all these, if the head of ISIS goes down, which I think is symbolic, as much as anything, right?
Yeah,
but I think
there's just something else that we're pointing out is they showed the picture of Trump and his cabinet and some pictures of how it was like the scene when they're going after Big Daddy, right? And how they actually captured him. But now then they contrast that to Obama sitting there going after Bin Laden, and how they made everyone destroy all of the evidence afterwards, right? And that even on the ship when they put his body into the sea and all the rest, that they destroyed the evidence. That contrast of somebody being able to show everything. Now they're going to. They said that they have all this. The sensitive information that they discovered I believe they're going to
Yeah.
they're just going to point back to the people like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi having a meeting with
Oh,
Big
I
Daddy.
bet they are. I mean, so they found this guy in Syria. Wasn't Nancy just in Syria?
Oh yeah, Jordan, but yeah, close enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the king of
I
Jordan.
thought that was part of her trip. But yeah, so she was looking for asylum. She was probably looking for the information that al-Baghdadi had, which indicated her, right?
Right.
And now you're going to find out that al-Baghdadi is, connected to the Ukraine, connected to, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, Comey and Brennan and all these other guys, Obama.
Think about this. They knew where he was for a month. Don't you think that they could put one of these little micro drones, fly it in there, fly on the wall to listen to what's going on? And while Nancy and Schiff were in Jordan, in the region, that they could have maybe had some communication.
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure it could have secret
meetings, something like that. Because it's not that far apart. While they're there. Even if Big Daddy came to meet with them, right? It would be something that was possible. So,
sure.
Yeah, the evidence that's going to come out is going to be so overwhelming. I think that I think it's something else. I think that and those in the Democrat Party that say #walk away, if they were to in the next couple weeks shift and become Republican, because they know what's coming down the line. That would get rid of Nancy Pelosi, and all of the heads of all of these things will now be without any power. Right? They might become the minority head of the minority party, right? So that, but I would probably end up being AOC anyway. But if you can see that just have 50 Democrats or representatives just flip parties because they know what's coming down the line. If they're not dirty, if there was 50 of them that weren't dirty and they know what's coming, if they just flipped, that would turn everything upside down, right? And,
oh yeah. And by the way, keep in mind, Nancy Pelosi, she had plotted to blow up the Capitol building with President Trump giving the State of the Union address when she was going to be in Afghanistan and wherever else visiting NATO.
Yes.
And all of those Democrats, or deep state, we'll say, all of the deep state who found out that she was going to do that,
they were going to be dead.
and they know they were going to be there, right? They were going to get killed too. So imagine how pissed off you'd be at her. And now she thinks she's in charge, but the reality might just be you have a lot more people on that are working for the good guys than maybe we realize, because they've turned.
Yeah, they don't. They could literally save themselves, right? At this point, by recognizing where this is going, the criminal charges, where that's going to end, is going to be at Obama's office. At everyone in the upper administration, including Hillary, the Clintons, and if that's where you're looking to as your protection in this government, you're done for, right? You should really consider this is the time to leave. If Trump knew which ones were good guys still, right? I can't say who is and who isn't. I'm sure that there's a dozen Republicans that are truly evil, and then there's only ones that are lean that way because that's where the wind's blowing, right? And then same thing on the Democrats. I just don't know, if Trump can bring in the ones that are good and say, listen, this is what's coming down the line. You guys might want to just change the name of the game and get rid of your leadership by switching parties.
Yep.
That would change things.
So, what's the guy's name? Kim Clement.
Oh yes.
Right now, he predicted about Trump, right? And he also predicted a woman will arise, which he compares it to Ruth in the Bible, and he talks about her being so beautiful and benevolent that everyone loves her because exalts her because she is restoring the earth.
That's
Right.
interesting. Restoration program.
Right now, Kim just introduced the restoration plan. I mean, I believe that's what she called it. That's what she referenced to me. And then it talks about how a new party will rise. Now, you know what? I think that party is us. I think that is the People's Republic. I thought about it. I thought potentially that could be something like,
How about the
you know,
human party?
yeah, the Guardians of the Earth. Whatever you want to call it. I mean, I feel like we should have a better name. But it's just me. So
Yeah, forget the humanity.
but I think
humanity word.
that's what's happening. Is you're witnessing a party rise that is for the people, right? Like like you're right, like a pro-human party, and not the pro-genocide party, right? That all thinks that they have the right to come in and impose massive, death. So it's all exciting. Is my point. It all really, if I were to look at the prophecy and the greater good of everything happening, I think it's all falling into place in kind of perfect alignment. So that's all I got, Dan, for tonight.
That sounds good. All right then, everyone. Let's come back tomorrow, and we'll see where we end up. We're starting a whole new week here, and we'll see what we end up with. Because it's been a fantastic last week, and this is the end of October. Right? Well, we're gonna, there's a lot of things that may happen, especially October 31st. So let's see how things evolve. All right, until tomorrow. Everyone, bye. We'll have a great day.
All right, appreciate you, Dan. Everybody have a good night.